So basically, to his house.
Need an extra pen?
I probably do. Yep.
Makes good money. He's a dentist.
Yeah.
Why would he want
To just make life miserable. Because
why would he want to waste even a second of his time on stuff?
I think his wife just pushes him to it, and he follows her, whatever she says. I don't know. I do not know. I've given up. There's a lot of people here.
I win because I actually verbally set up. I didn't just wait.
Did you know Lois Cohen?
Yeah.
She attended the Methodist Church.
Yes.
And
She passed away. Oh, that's a shame. No,
funerals today.
I didn't know that. What are,
It's on. It's on Driver's website. I know Jeff Carl's graduated with my sister Sherry. His initials are Cindy Carl.
no, I would. Yep. She used to come. She's a church member, but hasn't been there for a year, I don't think. And she was so frail.
She couldn't see anymore.
Yeah, right.
She's a great lady.
Oh, it was a wonderful lady. Yeah. But that Sherry didn't mention. She knows. She keeps up with all that stuff. So
You need a mic calculator?
we probably got an automated call, but it goes to our home phone. We don't get that.
Okay.
I went to the viewing yesterday. She was just today.
Okay. At the church or no? At Dryers.
I think so.
Yeah. Guys coming back through the front on I-75. I look up to the left, right by the airport.
Oh.
I said, well, that's not an airport. I said, no, it's a helicopter. This is white light, red light. Then all of a sudden, it's fairly low. It's got shine.
It's a preferred way.
Down. Then all of a sudden, I see all these emergency vehicles heading in the same direction. I don't know what's going on.
Now, I just turned it off.
That's how it turns off.
They know where you are this time?
Hello? Like I was just getting ready to start it and you made my phone ring. We are right here where the school board and the village meets. You'll see my truck parked outside the door. Yes. Okay.
You want me to go flag this person out?
She'll get it. She's just at the wrong door. It's like, dang it, I just put it on mute. I guess it rang before I got the button. Nice. I heard that, Lori. That's why I have it in this big, heavy case. All right, let's call the meeting to order at 6:33. Apparently that clock is not correct, so we're there. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, roll call, please. Yes?
Yes.
Here. Here.
Okay, consent agenda. All items listed under consent agenda are considered to be routine and non-controversial, do not require discussion by the Township Board, and will be approved by one motion. There will be no separate discussion. If discussion is desired on an item, that item will be removed from the consent agenda and will automatically be moved to the last item under new business. I would like to pull two down, number 4 and under number 5C, building permits. If we could bring those down, 6 and 7 respectively under new business.
approve the consent agenda as amended.
Support.
It is moved by Clerk Winchester to approve the consent agenda as modified, and support came from Treasurer Mark Freeman. Roll call, please.
Yes.
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 No.
Motion carries 4-1. Okay. We don't have a public hearing this evening, and we don't have a presentation. However, let me take an opportunity to introduce to you Ryan Sunder, and he is here for his Citizenship Award in his, is it a Boy Scout troop? It's a Boy Scout troop out of water. You want to take a minute to come up and introduce yourself and just say your name, and we'll get it on record so that you qualify and get all your stuff taken care of.
My name is Ryan Sunder. I'm from Troop 135, and I'm from Waterford. I'm working on my citizenship and community merit badge. This is one of the requirements of the
Okay.
Very good.
Were you able to get that information? Okay.
How many meetings do you have to come to? Just one.
All right. Well, you picked a good one tonight. We're not going to be here forever. So we won't keep you up past your bedtime. We will go into reports under the supervisor's report. First off, I posted this on the supervisor's Facebook page. There's a list of resources for those in need, whether it be for clothing, utilities, housing, for the holiday, food, or finances. It is on the website. So, or not the website, it's on the, is it on the website as well? So it is on the website, it's on the Facebook page for anybody looking for a way to help somebody or get help for themselves. Next on the report, I had spoke about this a while back, that we were doing some traffic studies in the township, and we did get some of the numbers back on that. There are a couple of projects that we are looking at and considering, whether they would be appropriate for paving and so forth. One of those is continuing Belford Road out over to Dixie Highway. Another is Quick Road from Fagan over to Fish Lake Road. Another one is perhaps the end of Rood Road where the high school is, that takes you into the back entrance. So we had some traffic studies done on those. And Oakland County Road Commission, basically, they're looking for 400 to 500 cars a day traveling those roads. 500 is kind of that threshold. If we're over 500, then the road can be considered. The numbers that were taken are kind of interesting that came forward. On Belford Road, east of North Holly Road, they stretch these lines across the road, and they do it for about a week, and they kind of take the highest average for a 24-hour period. And on the east side of North Holly Road, they clocked 489 cars per day.
But that's probably going to the cemetery, most of those.
Well, but here's what's interesting. On the west side,
Okay.
it's 458 cars.
Okay. All right.
I would have thought, like
Yeah.
you, that there were more for the cemetery and back, but it
Wow.
turned out that the numbers were almost identical, regardless of which side of the road you're on. So one of the elements of the conversation I had when he had the report was, perhaps the next study we want to do will be before the cemetery and after the cemetery to see what the difference is. But I think as I talked to Clerk Winchester, we were surprised the numbers were so high going the other way, which is on the west side of North Holly Road. We also did, Treasurer Freeman had asked about Fish Lake Road going north, because that was supposed to at some point the pavement was supposed to continue. The traffic counts there were 430 per day. So that was
Quick growth can't be.
some interesting numbers there. Quick Road, east of North Holly Road, was 463 per day. The numbers for west of there didn't come through because somebody removed the
The counter.
or not the counter, but the part that goes across the road.
Yep.
So they weren't able to get a count there. Now, the information on Rood Road, the same thing happened there. We got a count of 287 per day because the road grader didn't know they were out there, and it caught one and pulled it up. But I did have a meeting, as a matter of fact, just today with Superintendent Noose, and the next time we do that study, it's important that they open the back gate to the school so that the cars come in and out of there, because that's the numbers we're looking for, is the numbers that come out of there.
School.
Yep. So those are just some of the numbers, but this is the survey that was done through the TIA.
I don't know why they picked the 500 yet then, because none of them meet it.
Well, you know,
We're close.
we're pretty close
Yeah.
on a couple of them. So that's the information that came on there. We also got a letter from the Department of Technology Management and Budget. This is specifically from the Department of Military and Veteran Affairs. They are looking for, the state of Michigan anticipates building several new veteran homes during the next few years. Timing has to go along with federal guidelines and when money's available. The letter was sent to us because they're looking for a need. They're looking for property. They're looking if we want to recommend to them that we think it would be good to bring out here. I forwarded this letter to Joe Mischler at the Veterans Community Center. And if anybody else wants a copy of this letter to forward to somebody, let me know, and we can pass the letter around. It says that they're looking for information and response by January 3rd. So,
Weren't they looking for like 20-acre parcels?
I know.
See that? Or no?
21 acre or 20
20.
acres?
I don't see anywhere where it says
No?
acre. Oh, no, you're right. Looking for approximately 20 acres of vacant.
Yeah.
Oh.
And that's
Um,
what puts Holly on
Yeah.
the map
Are they willing
there
to buy
because
it?
I'm
south
sorry?
of us-
Are they willing to buy it?
Yeah. Well,
No.
actually, it says where did I just 20 acres of vacant surplus land.
Yeah,
Okay.
whatever that is.
So, but I do have a couple of copies if anybody's interested in a copy of that letter. Let us move on to the treasurer.
Perfect place, right next to the cemetery.
Report from the treasurer.
For the first time in at least 20 years, possibly longer, the Oakland County Board of Commissioners has voted to increase the price on dog licenses.
Oh.
So as of January 1, there'll be an increase. Spade and neuters were $7.50. They're going to $10.50. Male or female intact are going to $18. They were $15. So on January 1, there will be an increase, and we have put this on the website so that the public's aware of that fact.
Okay. Moving to the clerk.
We have in our consent agenda setting the public hearing for January 17th for the 2016-2017 CDBG reprogramming. We'll be addressing the prior years that we haven't used because there's a need in the village for the clearance and demolition of the car wash at 610 North Saginaw. So we'll have the public hearing on that and address that in January.
Perfect.
Okay. Trustees, Mr. Feeney. Mr. Ruth?
I do not.
Let's see, the planning commission didn't meet for lack of business. Did have a question when it came to the CBC. We had discussed the thing getting together with the individuals who want to apply to get a better understanding with the Oakland County, the head of the block grant for Oakland County. Was there anything coming of that to where we were going to meet with them to go over?
Yes, we're actually putting together a meeting with them in conjunction with the village, and we will be inviting groups that we feel would be eligible for that funding. HIA, the veterans, neighbor to neighbor, blessings in a backpack, those kind of groups. We're looking to set that up in January sometime.
And second one that I was coming up with a little education that was concerning the homeowners association. You were talking about getting, at least myself, I could use a little education on all the rules and that. I didn't know if that was something that was being planned anytime soon, or
regarding the special assessment for
Well, yeah,
Great
that,
Lakes?
and, and getting, well, and just overall getting a better understanding how the homeowners associations work and that. I didn't know if we were going to have any kind of,
Well, I think where we were left at this point is the homeowners association needs to come to us with a petition, correct? They had the petition, but they needed update signatures on it and come back to us.
Because they didn't have 50%.
They have to have
well, no,
50%.
I understand that. No, I guess my point was is that we were going to, for those of us who are kind of new to the idea about how the homeowners associations work, as it goes for this procedure, that we were going to get maybe with the attorney to kind of go over some of the basic rules. I didn't know if we could have any kind of session like that.
Sure. As we move forward on this, we'll set that up so that we can have a conversation, and we'll have public hearings on it anyway.
Well, on the road, but we don't have have anything to do with the associations
No,
themselves.
but I mean understanding how that works. Like, we're going to be somewhere down the line. They're going to come in front of us and ask us to do certain things for them. I'd like to understand what we can and cannot do. That
Well, and as we move forward, we'll work with the attorney, and she'll be present to walk us through that process.
Other than that, nothing else.
Okay, then we will move to public comment. This is on agenda items only. Members of the public can address the board on agenda items Members of the public can address the board on agenda items only. Once recognized by the supervisor, comments are limited to a maximum of 3 minutes. The board may extend this time by a majority vote. Prior to addressing the board, members of the public shall state their name, address for the record. A second public comment is available after new business for all other comments. Thank you for cooperation. Do we have anybody that would like to speak for public comment? Mr. Engelberg.
Tony Engelberg, 115.
Step over to the
Actual,
podium. For those of you in the audience that aren't aware, we are actually videotaping this meeting so that it can be on YouTube, and people at home that aren't able to be here can see that. So I had Tony move over there so that the camera can catch him in his comments.
I'm so used to the microphone being there.
Right.
I'm actually coming tonight to speak as the acting chairman of the Planning Commission. You have before you a draft of our woodlands, or a draft of the woodlands ordinance. And I guess tonight I'm here to ask you guys to send it back to planning. The genesis of this is you received a copy of the initial ordinance that I actually made the motion and was passed by a narrow margin. And that original ordinance, I think, had some good points, and it was what was in front of us, and I felt we needed to do something. But it came down to the fact that it probably was a little bit too restrictive to the individual homeowners and did not accomplish really what the main intention is. We don't want somebody coming in buying up a bunch of land and clear cutting. So the second ordinance, I had a good chance to sit down with Supervisor Cullis and Mike Damon, planner, and we sat down and talked about what is it we're really trying to accomplish. And the answer to that is we're trying not to burden the individual homeowner so much, but we don't want, like I said, a developer coming in, leveling land, and us, not having any recourse to get them to replant, especially if something happens like what happened in Pulte, where they came in, they cleaned everything out, and then they pulled out. And yes, trees are a renewable resource, but it takes a long time for them to grow back, and you don't necessarily get back the type of trees you want. You can end up with nuisance trees. So this ordinance that Mike ended up coming up with that's before you is terrific. I think it meets the needs that the township wants, and the number one thing we heard from residents when we did our public communication for our master plan was they wanted us to protect the rural characteristics of the township. So I think that what you have before you is perfect. However, you guys have several choices of how you could handle it tonight. You could vote to pass this, you could vote to reject it, or you could vote to send it back to planning. And since myself and Mr. Cullis and Mr. Feeney are the only ones on the planning board that involve with planning that have actually seen it, I think the right thing to do would be to send it back to us in planning and let us go over it as a group and vote on it, and then come back to you guys in a future meeting and have you vote to pass it. So if you have any questions, let me know. I'm sure Mike will have a few things to say too. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else wish to speak during public comment? Okay, none appearing. I will move to old business. There is none. I do have to raise a question. We approved the consent agenda and I just realized I should have pulled number 2 out of there. We have corrections to the minutes. And so I'm not sure exactly how we do that because we've already, can I open that back up? Do I? The minutes for the November 15th meeting, we have a correction. They're here on this page. I can pass them to you. You'll find at the bottom of the page that the lines remove what was in there, and you'll see what it's replaced with. I have a copy for. Do I need to get one to the?
There's one in her packet.
Okay, so I have an extra one here. Okay. It has to do with the request for special assessment road with the Great Lakes Homeowners Association, Pat, part of what you were talking about. You'll see the items that are lined out versus the paragraph that's in there. And we've already approved the minutes. Do I make a motion to approve the amended minutes?
I would probably make a motion to reopen the consent agenda.
Okay, so we'll make a motion to reopen the consent agenda and in so doing, move number 2 down to number 8.
First of all, that has to be in the form of a motion in a second to reopen the consent agenda.
Okay, but my motion is to open, or just open the consent, don't do the other?
Right. Let's
Okay.
get it open first, then we can take.
All right,
action.
I'll make a motion that we open the consent agenda.
Support?
Okay, motion to open the consent agenda by Supervisor Cullis, second by Treasurer Freeman. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so motion carries. Now, I guess we need to move 2 down to new business.
You can make a motion now.
So the motion will include 2, 4, and 5C down to new business, which makes them they would then become 6, 7, and 8.
So moved.
Support. So it's moved by Clerk Winchester, support by Cullis. Roll call.
Sharon Winchester,
Yes.
Pat Heed,
Yes.
Mark Freeman,
Yes.
Rick Ellis,
Yes.
Steve Rude.
Yes.
Motion carries. Okay. Now we'll go on to new business. Planning Commission appointment. These are for a 3-year term. The names I'm bringing forward, I guess we need to do them individually. The first one would be Tony Engelberg. He has served for a total of about 2.5 years, and I would like to reappoint him for a new 3-year term going forward. I would entertain a motion to do so.
I move to appoint Tony Engelberg to the Planning Commission for the term 1/1/18 to 12/31/20.
Second.
Support?
Motion by Clerk Winchester, support by Mark Freeman to appoint Tony Engelberg from January 1st of 2018 through December 31st of 2020. Is there any discussion? Roll call, please.
Steve Rude,
Yes.
Mark Freeman,
Yes.
Pat Heed,
Yes.
Sharon Winchester,
Yes.
Rick Ellis.
Yes. Motion carries. Okay. The second person for the Planning Commission for the same term, January 1st, 2018 through December 31st, 2020, would be Glenn Mitchell.
So moved.
Support?
It is moved by Treasurer Freeman, support by Clerk Winchester. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mark Freeman,
Yes.
Sharon Winchester,
Yes.
Rick Ellis,
Yes.
Pat Heed,
Yes.
Steve Rude.
Yes.
And motion carries. Okay. Now, on the Board of Review, we had Lynn St. Pierre. Her term is up, and she is stepping down. So Jim Clark was our alternative. Jim Clark will fill her position for the term January 1st, 2018 through December 31st of 2020. Chair would entertain a motion.
So moved.
Support?
Motion by Freeman, support by Winchester. Roll call, please.
Steve Ruth,
Yes.
Ann Winchester,
Yes.
Art Cullen,
Yes.
Pat Henney,
Yes.
Bert Hunter.
Yes.
Motion carries. Now, for the Board of Review, the alternate, which would fill the seat that Jim Clark is moving up to, or up from. The replacement there would be Lori Goldsmith. She's with us this evening. That term would be from January 1st of 18 through December 31st of 2020. And Chair would entertain a motion.
So moved.
Support.
Motion by Treasurer Freeman, support by Clerk Winchester, for Lori Goldsmith to be the alternative to the Board of Review. Term January 1st of 2018 through December 31st of 2020. Any discussion? None appearing. Roll call, please.
Mark Freeman,
Yes.
Pat Henney,
Yes.
Ann Winchester,
Yes.
Steve Ruth,
Yes.
Art Cullen.
Yes. Motion carries. Now, item 5 on new business, or no, item 4, proposed code of ordinance amendment to the tree in the woodlands. I'm going to give that one to Mike, the planner.
Tony stole most of my thunder with his public comment. So you do have 2 drafts of this ordinance in work, right? So, you know, as Tony said, this whole started as part of the master plan process. One of the key things we heard time after time was the protection of the natural features of the township was one of the top priorities of people who responded and showed up during the process. So to help do that, we have worked on creating a woodlands protection ordinance. So as Tony said, the original draft is a little bit more restrictive on the single-family residential homes than I think was our intent. Well, than was our intent. So the draft that you have, that the Planning Commission looked at, identified a number of exceptions and where a permit wouldn't be required. So you would be allowed to cut down trees to put in a driveway. You'd be allowed to cut down trees to put in your house, put in an accessory building, put in well and septic fields. You wouldn't have to replace any of those trees within those specific areas. The goal of the ordinance is to prevent people from just clear cutting and to think about where they are placing, their buildings. And this would be applied across all uses, regardless if you're residential or commercial. Now, there's an exception in there that stated you could remove 10% of your trees, I think every 2 years, without requiring a permit. Right? So the thought behind that was that would allow some leeway for property owners to remove their trees without having to go through the process. I think that section is sort of where we got hung up on with the Planning Commission. This is my property. I should be able to do what I want to do with it. And I agree to an extent, right? Because at some point you start affecting the neighboring properties. So we sat down with George and Tony and we brainstormed some ideas on how to improve the ordinance. Because at its base, the bones of this ordinance is good. I think it's going to serve well for commercial and industrial projects. So you don't have a warehouse come in and just clear cut it. You don't have a subdivision just come in and clear cut and then leave it barren while they develop. But how do we handle the single family homes, the homeowners, the people of Holly? Well, I think we identified what the key component that came through the master plan and that we're concerned with, the visual impact. If you're cutting the trees on the interior of your lot, the only person that's really affecting is you. If that's what you want to do, more power to you. So we provided a revised ordinance based on discussions we had that protects the trees within the setback area. And that changes by zoning district. And as Tony said, we recommend that this go back to the Planning Commission. I think that's one of the areas that we need to discuss at the Planning Commission level is, do we want to do it as the setbacks of the zoning district where, you have a lesser setback for the sides, but greater in the front and rear, or if you just want to take a more general approach of like 20 feet around or 35 feet around, have a little bit more discussion on that. But we we still have their exception in there, so you can cut down trees to put in your driveway. You know, if you have to cut down trees in that setback area for your well and septic, you don't have to replace those. And if you want to cut down trees in there that are in this protected area, you can do so. But if they're qualifying trees, so what that means is that they're a tree of a certain size, 8-inch diameter, and they're healthy trees, and they're not a unwanted species, then you would have to replace it. So, you know, I mentioned these exceptions. Dead and diseased trees you can remove without a permit. We have a list of certain trees that are not protected. If you are getting rid of those trees, you don't need a permit. If they're smaller trees, you do not need a permit. They can be removed. So again, I think this revised ordinance reduces the burden and essentially removes the burden on single-family owners. It still protects the commercial and industrial areas, and if someone wants to put a subdivision, you're protecting the residents by maintaining that visual impact, making people think about where they're going to build, take the natural features into consideration. So I'm here to answer any questions. I think that the most appropriate action at this point is to refer it back to the Planning Commission. They have not seen the revised ordinance. And then they will make a recommendation back to you. And I think we can get this done pretty quick here.
Any comments? Mr. Feeney?
No, anybody got any comments? Because I was going to make a motion that.
No, I got a few questions.
Yeah.
Why don't we go ahead and get the motion on the floor,
Okay.
and we'll have it during
Okay.
discussion. Go ahead.
Yeah. I'd like to make the motion that we send this back to the Planning Commission for further review.
Motion has been made to send the proposed code of ordinance amendment for the tree and woodlands back to the Planning Commission. Is there support?
Support?
I would say Mr. Ruth and Mr. Freeman both shaking their head, but
Sure.
I finally heard Steve.
That's right.
So we'll go with Trustee Ruth on that. Now, let us go ahead into discussion. Go ahead, Steve.
Okay. Just, I think I already asked Tony, but to make it clear, this is for all of Holly Township.
Correct.
And the one
Excuse
exception.
me, outside the village limits.
Oh, outside the village limits, correct. Okay.
So we're clear.
Yep. So I'm looking at a master plan here, map. And regardless of whether it's residential, agriculture, 5-acre minimum, this would be included in it as well. So virtually everything. So other than you mentioned farmland, or if it's a
Yeah, well, again.
or not farmland, but a working
There are
farm.
a number of exceptions, right, that are back there.
Are they in? I didn't read them though. They should be listed in here. However you're going to want to do this, I think.
You're referring to exceptions like right to farm?
And
Mike?
So like, this would be section 2C, right? Discusses exemptions. Now, I don't think we specifically mentioned right to farm act. But we.
Okay. As an example, there's a Scott Farms development on Fagan Road. I don't know if you're familiar with that. They're 5 and 10 acre lots. Some people have 2 lots together, and there's a row of trees down of the old fence row line or something. That would prevent them from clearing that off?
Yeah, if those trees, well, prevent, if they are removing it for routine maintenance, if the trees are diseased or.
Well, no. I mean, they just want to cut them down because they want a clear path to see their other 5 acres or something.
So, it depends, again, on the size of the trees.
Right.
Right, but
Let's
assuming that
let's say they're under the protected, or what do you call
Right,
it?
then- then they would have to come in and get a permit from the township to do so.
Okay, so they could get a permit,
Yes.
but who decides whether it's okay to cut it on all those big old cherry trees that were lining the old fence line? I mean,
So that would be through staff. It's outlined, the procedures in there. They
Okay.
present the plan, right? Identify the trees that they want to cut down, right? And if we say that requires permit, they would have to fill out the permit. We identify the number of trees they're going to cut down, and then what's the replacement for those trees. And then they would have to show where they're going to plant those
Yeah, I guess I got a tough time with that because it may not be practical, or it's gonna cost them money to plant those trees as well. It just, that seems like there's, if the purpose of this was to get no clear cutting for sale of, large acreages of trees or developers, why don't we just say that, or just make it
Well, but it's
for
also
that?
for protecting the natural beauty of the township, right? So by cutting down usually the trees that would have the most visual impact on other properties within the township, right on the property lines where either your neighbors can see or they're viewable from the road.
I just see it, but somebody buys a 5-acre lot and it happens to be an old field that's grown up. It's filled with big trees, and they want to. Let's say.
But if these trees are we talking about trees that are like in the middle of the lot, or trees that are on the property?
That's just scattered on the whole property. Let's say.
If it's on the interior of the property, they can come down, no permit needed.
Just within the
Just
set.
within the 20 feet of the property lines.
Okay. Well, if it's a big lot, I guess I could see that may work.
Part of this discussion will be had at the planning level.
Yeah,
Commission
I'm just
when it
trying to
goes back.
bring out the questions or concerns I have. So somebody, let's say they want to buy a 10 or 15 acre lot that's, again, grown up, that was an old field, and they want to mow it down or clear cut it to plant corn. They don't live there, nobody lives there, it's just, how would that,
So in this specific situation, if they're doing it to do corn, right? They can
or whatever, yeah.
Well, if they're doing it for agricultural purposes,
Yeah.
right?
Okay.
It's compliant with the right to farm act, they can do
Okay,
it.
okay.
No permit needed.
I think all those details need to be somehow really made clear to me in this thing. And if it gets down to the small lots, that's where it seems like there's going to be you can't penalize somebody for cutting down their trees and then having to replant or something. Or if they have a small lot, for example, they're
Well, again, it depends on where the trees are.
right. I mean, if it's in the set, yeah.
If it's outside of the setback area, then there's no issue. They can remove those trees without a permit.
Yeah, I was just thinking of the houses that are within 20 feet of the next property line.
Well, in that situation, the setback is smaller than that, if they're that close, right?
Well, I don't know what the I thought
Setbacks.
I thought they were
Smaller
20
the
feet.
lot, the thinner the setback.
Right, but I thought it was 20 feet minimum, or is
Well,
there
no,
10
it
foot?
depends on the zoning district. Each
Yeah,
zoning district
right,
has its own
yeah.
setback requirements.
Well, sure.
The smaller lots generally have smaller setback requirements.
But if they're smaller than 5 acres, this doesn't pertain to them anyway, correct?
No, it does.
It would.
Oh, it would?
It's all lots, yeah.
Oh, I thought 5 was the limit.
No.
Well, these are things that the planning commission then is going to have that discussion.
Again, if somebody wants to cut a large area to put a pond in or something, they have a 5-acre lot or something. So they got to come to get a permit, but then it's the decision of and who's would be on this
Well,
board to decide? Because, I mean, now it becomes a personal choice of theirs to vote yes or no on somebody's request that requires a
so,
permit.
Again, in this
Yeah.
situation, if they're putting in the pond, they're putting it on the interior of the lot, right?
Well, perhaps. We can't.
There's no permit required for that because it's outside of the setbacks. So
So it would only be if the pond was within the setbacks.
if they were going to, well, I suppose conceptually that if they were going to build a pond out or inside the setbacks, there would be some site plans that would be needed, and we'd have some additional review as part of that. And we would look at it in conjunction with that site plan review.
Yeah, I guess I'd have to. We have a lot of some lots here are a lot long and skinny, so I don't know what the setbacks on those are, and how that might impact it. But again, if it's not well spelled out, it becomes just the board deciding whether to grant them their permit or not, and then it's a personal choice rather than a following precise. And I don't know how to do it. I'm not. And if we just want to prevent clear cutting or developers doing stuff, rather than the homeowner, we should just describe that. But it sounds to me it's more than that, more than just the
All right, well, the
developer
motion on the floor
So-
is to send it
Yeah,
back to
so-
planning.
Yep.
Is there any more discussion at this level? So the motion on the floor by Pat Feeney to send it back to planning, second by Steve Ruth. If there's no further discussion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay.
So this will be going back to the plan. Now, the proposal for the sign ordinance. Mike, planner, if you want to help us out on that?
Sure. So, you have a proposal there for reviewing and updating the sign ordinance. There's a couple of issues that need to be addressed. The first is that almost 3 years ago now, Superior Court passed a decision on content neutrality, regulating what you can and can't regulate on signs. So this affects every community in the country. It's not Michigan, it's not Oakland County, it's not High, it's literally everywhere. Technically, right, you can't have separate regulations that are based on content. So that means you can't have a regulation for political signs, right? Because then you would have to treat your garage sale signs the same as political signs, for sale signs same as political signs. So if you have, if you say a sign can only be up for 14 days max, well, all of a sudden a for sale sign for a property is going to have to follow the same rules. And so there are numerous issues throughout the ordinance, and again, right, it's everyone everywhere is dealing with this. So that's issue number one that needs to be addressed. Number two, there are a number of existing signs that are non-conforming to the ordinance. But you wouldn't know them by looking at them, right? Because they meet the character of the township, but they don't meet the ordinance. And so you have new businesses that want to come in and they want to say, well, I want to do what this guy's doing, right? I want to put my sign right here. He did. It looks right, it fits. Why can't I do that?
Mhm.
The ordinance doesn't say that, right? So you're putting additional burdens on these new business owners. So there's a number of issues like that that should be addressed. And then the third is the size of signs. Not all districts need large signs, not all districts should have small signs. If you look at a building like the Shannon Distribution Center that came in, they are going to get a variant, or have gone, or thinking about getting a variance for, to allow larger letters for their address, right? Because if you look at the size of the building, what the ordinance allows is basically a postage stamp on, a huge building. So, when you take all these together, now is the time for you guys to review your sign ordinance. It'll help maintain the character of the township, make it fair for business owners, and protect you from content neutrality issues that may arise. So we put a schedule identifying the number of hours that it would take to review the ordinance, and the proposal is not to exceed $4,080, I think it's going down. It's anticipated that this would take at least 2 drafts to get through.
More than that.
I think with the planning commission, with their effort and the hard work they're willing to put in, that's a pretty accurate assessment, and I think we can get it done in a timely manner.
So you're asking for us to do what tonight?
Approve the proposal,
Approve it?
Of the $4,080.
not to exceed.
Not to exceed.
It might not be that much.
Right, no, I understand.
Yeah.
I just wanted clarification.
Anything that's been coming that I've read from some publications with the different planning groups around the state, and that's been one of the big things they've been encouraging all the communities to do it. Obviously, Mike's probably identified some places in Holly already that we could use corrections on, but it's been the general consensus of the professionals that it's time to do overhaul of all the sign ordinances. So I think it would be worth our money to go ahead and do that.
Yeah, we have to, so we don't end up in court.
Figure what your costs there, in one court case.
Mhm.
You know, I think you can imagine how much we could save just from.
Just because you have an ordinance doesn't mean you're going to stay out of court.
No,
No.
no, but you know,
Yeah.
it might you know,
Yeah.
like he was suggesting about the one coming in here and saying, well, one
Yeah.
guy's got it,
Right.
we didn't let
Yeah.
him do it, you know.
I understand.
Yeah,
Yes.
no, that's true. You
Yeah.
can't avoid everything,
Yeah.
but you know, you can
Right.
at least try to head off some of them.
Well, I will go ahead and make a motion that we approve the the proposal for the sign ordinance amendments not to exceed $4,080.
Support.
Support by Clerk Winchester. Any discussion? I will say this, we've had several issues come in recently on signs in the township, and we've been kind of in a holding pattern, waiting for this to come down, and we need to get some clarification, and I think we'll be able to have some of that discussion as we move forward on this. So I look forward to looking at that and see where we land on that before we deal with any of the residents or citizens in the township. We wanted to make sure we had this clear before we move forward from a code enforcement standpoint. So, any other discussion?
I got a couple comments or questions.
Sure.
You're saying that you can't have a township ordinance that is tighter in control or descriptions on the types of signs or what they say?
Right, you can't regulate what they say. So you can regulate the size and location and a little bit of appearance, not a lot of appearance, but a little bit.
So in this proposal, you're going to have how you do regulate political signs versus yard sale signs, and that's going to be all spelled out?
Yeah, oh yes, definitely.
Good luck.
Yep.
Yeah.
So we make the big bucks.
And, yeah, 4,080 of them.
Yeah.
The other thing was the new guy coming in, new business guy coming in, why can't my sign be like that? So you would be eliminating or not grandfathering in?
No, existing signs would remain grandfathered.
Okay, okay. All right.
Yeah, so the answer to that question from the new business is
Yeah.
it's grandfathered in.
Yeah, right, okay.
I know a lot of communities have gone to the monument signs. You no longer see the big tall
Yeah, that
signs
looks really
anymore.
good when they do that, yeah, if you can get people to do that, yeah.
Yeah, so. Any other discussion? None appearing. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right?
Opposed? What?
It's money.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, it's
Yeah,
money.
okay,
You're right.
yeah.
Roll call.
Karen Winchester,
Yes.
George Ellis,
Yes.
Mark Freeman,
Yes.
Pat Feeney,
Yes.
Steve Ridge.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0. Okay, now we can go down to number 6. It's the minutes, as I told you. I sent out what we're changing. Basically, what happened is, while some of these words that were recorded here in the minutes on number 2 were probably spoken, it was more or less under the context of what if and how this might work going forward. My concern was that if you read the minutes clear and you hadn't been a part of that meeting, it made it appear that we had made some decisions, which we had not. So that was my concern for the amendment to the minutes. And you can see the new one says, a request to create a special assessment district for road maintenance was made by the Great Lakes Homeowners Association Board of Trustees in December of 2016. In addition to the request, they provided petitions signed by residents in the subdivision. It was the consensus of the board that they would review the request and bring it back to the board in the future. And then it goes on to tell you that the township attorney said a couple of things needed to be happened in the same manner. So that's the amendment. I would make a motion to approve the minutes as amended.
Support.
Motion by Supervisor Cullis, support by Clerk Winchester. Any other discussion? None appearing. Voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Motion carries 4-1. Now, number 7 is the approval of bills for payment. The reason we brought that down is there was a revised sheet. Did everybody receive that in their packet?
Yep.
Okay, so the revised bill. The one thing that I wanted to do going forward is you'll notice under consent agenda, under number 4, it says approval of bills for payment December 2017, and we wrap the gavel. In an attempt to keep up with the transparency thing, my one concern was, as you look at these bills, I said I often wonder if the public understands that the approval tonight is for a total of $272,284.23. Some of that is moving $240,000 from the township to NACFA so that they can handle their budget, because all of that money comes in through our office. The other thing is, I noticed if you look on these, the invoice distribution report for the township, there are a lot of entries that say operating expenses, and there are different dollar amounts. And I asked Clerk Winchester to bring a couple of those forward so that the public could understand that, first of all, any of this, if you ever see them on the packet, you can call the township office, ask what these are expenses for, and they can be explained. A lot of them are for routine things, whether it be snow shoveling or washing windows or having to repair something in the office, or office products, supply, copy paper, so on and so forth. One of them here, I asked her just for an example. If you look on the front page, you'll see that the first operating expense going back to October 17th is $583. Periodically, we have to call a shredding company and have them come in as we get rid of documents that are maybe 8 years old or 11 years old, depending on what the law is. Those documents can't just be thrown in the garbage can. They've got to be shredded and taken care of in an appropriate manner. The bill for that was $583. So that's one example. Then if you go to another example, further down the line, you'll see an entry for $353.82. That is from the printing systems company, and there are two separate bills there. Perhaps you can explain what those are. There are two invoices there, one for $176 and one for dang it, I ate the other paper. Oh, there are two for $176.91.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So let me
That
see.
totals the $353. But I just wanted the public to understand, when you see these things, what these numbers are about, because this is a lot of money that we're looking at.
These are general fund checks, so check stock, and that was for the one, and then we did another order for the tax fund. So those are both check orders.
So those are check orders. Those are the kind of expenses that fall under these operating expenses. But anytime you see something like this, if you have any questions regarding these kinds of things, you can contact the office. We're more than happy to let people know what they are specifically. But I just thought it was something we'd pull down. And starting January, on the consent agenda, you're going to see approval of bills for payment, and you'll actually see the dollar amount right on the agenda that we actually approve. So for this particular month, it's about $25,463 in the monthly bills for the township itself, plus there's that $240,000 transfer of funds, taxes that are collected for NACFA, that puts it into their budget.
And the $6,000 in the building department.
Yeah, and there's another $6,000 in the building department.
$6,800, I think.
$6,800, it's on the back of here. Yep, you'll see that. And so that is number 7. I would make a motion that we approve the bills for payment.
Support.
Motion by Supervisor Cullis to pay the bills. Support by Treasurer Freeman, which is good, seeing as he's going to write the checks. Any other discussion? Pat? Steve?
No.
Okay, roll call, please.
Kathleen,
Yes.
Councilman,
Yes.
Ann Winchester,
Yes.
Clerk Cullis,
Yes.
and Mayor.
Yes.
Okay. Then the other one I wanted to bring down was C, building permits for November. We just approved those. We see the report here. But the reason I wanted to bring that down was I wanted the citizenry to get to understand how things have been changing in this economy. For the year 2016, we took in $54,613 in building permits, which was about a total of 101 building permits. These aren't electrical, mechanical. These are strictly building permits. In 2017, we took in 116,235, which is more than double. And we went from 101 building permits to 204. So that shows some things are coming back for the township. There's new homes being built out in the outer township. People are building additions to their home, decks on their home. So that's stagnation. I think the number I heard for 2015 was down around 20 building permits that year.
Jeez.
So the numbers have really turned around, and I think we're getting back on the right track. So that was the reason I wanted to bring that up, so that the public understood what that went. And again, those lists can be acquired. I noticed that there's a lot of Holly Hills is completing one of their phases out there. So there's almost a whole page of mobile home permits. which are the foundations and the base and putting in the home and so forth. There are a lot of deck, garage. There's several new residents on here. So, you know, these lists can be obtained, and you can come into the township and see that. But I just kind of wanted to give a report on the building permits and what that is. So, I will make a motion that we approve that as well. Is there a second?
Support.
Motion by Supervisor Cullis, support by Clerk Winchester. Any other discussion?
We'd be happy to email it as well. They don't have to come into the
Oh,
office.
okay, so they can send an email request, and we can handle it that way. Any other discussion? None appearing. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right?
No, wait a minute, because this is money, do I need a roll call?
No.
No,
that's
it's just a report. Okay. Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries. And then that takes us through all of that. We're back to public comment. This public comment can be on any topic. Members of the public, again, can address the board. Once recognized by the supervisor, comments are limited to a maximum of 3 minutes. The board can extend this time by a majority vote. Prior to addressing the board, members of the public shall state their name and address for the record. And anybody want to speak on public comment? Mr. Engelberg.
Once again, Tony Engelberg, 115 Talk Show. First of all, I'd like to thank the board for reappointing me for another 3 years. And I think I saw Mr. Mitchell in the crowd here. I'd like to welcome you to the board as well. It'd be great to have you. Real quick on what you guys are talking about. I think no matter how detailed you do an ordinance, there's always going to be something that may get missed. And you will always have people that say that we as a government should not tell you what you can and can't do on your property. And as Mike said, in a lot of ways I agree with that. But then again, that's in some ways protecting the township is something that we are entrusted to do, and it is something that people told us they wanted us to do in every communication that we've had with them. So I think finding a balance is key. I do believe this new draft is a big step in that direction. Can we tweak it further? Maybe. I'm excited to get to our January meeting and see what can be done with that. So, Mr. Freeman, I actually have a question for you, and I'm hoping you can answer. Neighbor actually posed it to me a couple days ago, talking about paying our taxes. And she wanted to know why the township could not, since the winter taxes are typically so much smaller than summer, would it not save the township money, and would it not be easier for the staff for you to just have either one tax assessment a year and group everything together, or if it has to be done in 2 parts, and this is what popped into my head, could you not send out one bill with 2 different coupons rather than having to do 2 mailings a year, spending all whoever has the unfortunate job in the office of licking all those envelopes and doing all of that? So could you explain just why taxes are done, broken up the way they are?
Sure.
I'll sit down.
Thank you.
Okay. Each taxing entity has to submit a form called an L-425, 429, and the governing body has to approve it. So as an example, Oakland County will send an L-429, and it'll be approved by the Oakland County Board of Commissioners. And Holly Area Schools does that, Oakland Community College, the different entities that we collect their taxes for them. And then we disperse them to them. So Holly Township, our board, doesn't have the authority to determine who wants to collect when. The school taxes are generally collected in the summer. So if you look at your summer tax bill, it is primarily all school taxes and county taxes. There are no taxes collected on the summer tax bill that go to Holly Township. The winter taxes are the ones that contain, there is some taxes for Oakland County, Parks and Rec, Oakland County Parks and Rec and the Huron-Clinton Park Authority. But the rest of the winter bill is for Holly Township Library, and Holly Township Parks. And then also, that's when we collect for our special assessment district for fire and emergency services through NOCFA. So that's the way that it is done. What I can tell you is that Holly Township is one of the last townships that processes all its tax bills in-house. Most of the other CVTs, that means city, villages, and townships, they contract with Oakland County and through Oakland Intermediate School District, and they print them, they run them through a process where it stuffs them in the envelopes and applies the bulk postage, and out they go. So they're not actually handling them in office. But I have done analysis and still feel that the township saves money by doing it the way that we are. We print approximately 3,000 tax bills because all of the properties that are purchased with a mortgage with an escrow account for taxes and a lot of times for insurance, we do not send the tax bill to those escrow agents. We send them a report that lists all their properties that they hold the mortgage on, that they're responsible for the escrow accounts. They send us one check for all of those. So that there's efficiencies with computers now that are building into the system. So what these larger banks do is they basically send a tape to Oakland County, and Oakland County loads it. We don't even, all we do is we get the check. They load it, shows on the system paid, we cash the checks, put them in the bank, and then I do my disbursement, send everybody their taxes they're supposed to get. So it's a good question. I can say I've considered whether we should try to schedule some type of a public meeting called Property Taxes 101, where we could go through the tax bill and explain to the public everything that's involved with it. There's a lot more than what I just said, but we could do that in a systematic fashion. So that's an idea I've thought of, and I think the public would appreciate it. Like everything else, you're always concerned about how well your turnout would be. For me to go to do the work needed to be able to put together basically a course in property taxes and present it to the public, obviously I'd want to see a pretty decent turnout for that. So I hope that answers your question. The one thing that we do get is why is there an administration fee on the taxes? The answer to that question is that we calculate the entire cost of processing the tax bills, the cost of creating the tax roll, all of the maintenance that Janice and I do to make sure all of the accounts are correct and ready to be printed, the cost of the tax bills, the actual blank stock, the actual labor required to print the tax bills, sort them, process them. We have a folding machine we run through that does that part of it. Stuffing them in the envelopes, the cost of the envelope, cost of postage. We have the total cost, and that is a big portion of that's covered by the administration fee. The administration fee is 1% of the total dollars of taxes on the tax bill. Hope it wasn't too lengthy there, but that's why I've thought about having a class, because you could easily spend 2 hours discussing.
Well, I think you did it effectively. Nobody's asleep. So that's the good news.
Thank you.
All right, I just want to take an opportunity to welcome Lori Goldsmith on our board of review, and Glenn Mitchell joined us during the meeting, and I want to welcome you on the Planning Commission. I look forward to working with you going forward. If there are no other comments this evening, then we will adjourn this meeting at 7:35. Oh, and let me wish everybody a happy holiday and a Merry
Yep,
Christmas.
Absolutely. George.